As you now are on the agency side of life, how are you taking your research and analytics and data chops into a more buy side and advertiser side view of the world?
Well, I mean, when I started in research and data in the media world, the rate limiting step was availability of data, and I feel like now there's plenty of data available. The question is, how does the buy side use it? And a lot of that is about explaining, everyone looks at it as this is a Rentrack problem, or this is a Nielsen problem, or we're going to do a test using this data set or that data set. Just trying to get the organization to understand that it's the questions and the strategy that have to come first, and then you look for the appropriate research tools to answer those questions, and then you apply the data to be smarter about buying. Is not, it's how the strategy side of agency life appears to work, but it's certainly not how the buy side has worked, because the data there has always been Nielsen. And since that's the currency, people said, we're not going to worry about anything else. And I think the interesting challenge is trying to get them to look broader than that and say, that might be the currency in the old way that we did content-based television advertising, but in the new world of impressions, that's not the right way to answer the question.
So do you think that the Nielsen system and its evolution into C3, C7, they just announced C35 data for the first time, do you think that longitudinally is the answer, and that most media buyers, advertisers, TV people are expecting Nielsen just to evolve a Nielsen rating, or do you think there are other data sources that could come to play?
I mean, I feel like at this point, evolving the traditional ratings is almost answers to the wrong test. And so, Nielsen is evolving that, the total content ratings tool set that they're going to roll out, and the use of the PPM, and starting to work set-top data into the mix. They're still solving the local ratings problem, and the world is moving on to trying to think about impression-based television. So I don't think their evolutionary path ever gets us to the new world. It gets us better tools to operate in the mold that broadcast media have used for 50 years. But I don't think that you can cross over to real understanding of audience behaviors across channel using a ratings tool of any kind.
What kind of data do you think could help augment or further maybe what a ratings story begins to tell in this day and age?
What the Nielsen legacy is, we have a panel that's a single source of truth. And I think having that as a calibration and as a way to understand individuals' media usage across devices throughout the course of a day, for example, we still need some tool set like that. And I don't know whether it'll be Nielsen or somebody else who provides it, but some combination of device-based metering and in-home router or other measurement. There's a company we've been talking to called T-Vision that has basically does attribution of who's in front of the TV set using a camera. Starting to get Reality Mind has the ACR capability combined with device meter and router meter. It was great. They just did a big project for the Olympics. If what you're trying to do is understand that cross-device usage, that super deep data set from a sample is awesome. But what you then need to do is take that, small data world, and I mean by small data, it's a limited sample, it's sample-based, it's, we're going to know a whole lot about a small number of people, and marry that to big data sets that measure actual delivery of impressions. Who actually watched what did they skip? What's time shifting behavior from DVRs, like we did in my days at TiVo. Set-top box data, smart TV data. What I'm hoping for is a world where we can tie all of those things together. Maybe I'm just a utopian communist or something like that, but I just wish all the data could get along. And part of it has to be you go out and collect it specifically from a panel, and part of it has to be an artifact of people using media the way they normally use it, and just counting what gets left behind, because that's the only way you can do it totally passively.
I think you have, and this will be sort of, I guess, the last question. You probably have a unique point of view on this because of your having been in technology companies and in research, and now on the agency side. Do you think that we're going to get to a point where media buying and selling can get transacted and traded on, let's call them today, alternate forms of measurement and/or currencies, or are we going to be sitting waiting for Godot, if you will, for Nielsen to aggregate everything that needs to be baked into a super rating?
Again, I think if we can start to move to a world where we're transacting on actual impression delivery, as we do in the digital world today with television, it sort of eliminates the need to worry about the ratings, because you know exactly who saw what when, or at least what played on what device when. So it's a much more granular opportunity to see measure. I think what I'm hearing from our clients is they're ready to move to that today. And they're not going to do it with every dollar they spend, but they're certainly willing to experiment and to enter sort of the world, step off the single currency train, if you will, and try something else, because I think they realize that they're not being well served by the existing measurement tools. And we'll see what happens when they get a taste, but I think if you can couple actual exposure to actual outcome, now you're answering the questions that the marketers really want answered, and you don't necessarily need a ratings number to measure that.